if you're looking for a flat anywhere in Spain, you are at the right place. I know how difficult it can be. I know that most of you may have read a lot of horror story on Facebook, social media, or in the news. But today we're here to help you and to clarify what are the steps that you need to take. So to do so, I'm joined by Kelly. She's my favorite apartment hunter. She's helped a lot of people, expats like yourself, move to Barcelona and find their happy place. So today, Kelly has accepted for me to share some cases from two of my clients. So based on that, I'm just going to give her an overview of some of the concerns and questions that some of my clients have, and she will help us guide. She will help me guide my client, and hopefully she can help you too. Okay?
Super. Let's get right into it.
Okay, amazing. So let's start with the first one then, Kelly. So this is actually a client of mine that I started working with a month ago. So her name is Louisa. So her case is quite interesting, but it happens to many people. But as we speak, it's July and she's planning to move to Spain in November, but she's already stressed out. She wants to move to Barcelona. So she's thinking about Barcelona. She's doing paperwork right now. She wants to move on a non-lucrative visa. So there's a lot of bureaucracy around that. And so she can't really handle the stress that comes with finding a flat. So she told me about a bit of some specificities that she had. So I'm just going to share them with you and then we'll go through it together. So like I said, she wants to move to Barcelona. Her budget is 3K, so quite a good hefty budget. She's looking for a 1 to 2 bedroom apartment, ideally. And when she's open to different options. But what she wants to know is what are her living options, having this time frame in mind.
So the first thing we need to do is say, Louisa, we've got you. Don't worry. It's normal to stress. It's very difficult when you don't know when the visa will be ready. It's very difficult to think about exactly when you will be arriving in Barcelona or the rest of Spain, wherever you're coming to. But in general, if you're coming to Spain, more for Barcelona and Madrid, you would have 3 options. Okay. So in Louisa's case, she knows that she's coming in November. We call this a client that has a lot of time to prepare. And there's 3 key options that you can take. In this case, she has a dog.
She does also have a pet, so that was also something that she had mentioned here.
Okay, super. So let's speak about Louisa in general and how we can move forward with it. Okay, so Louisa's coming in November and she has 3 options. The first option she would have is from abroad. She would have someone help her to find her long-term apartment.
Okay.
If she has a dog, it's a little bit easier to get long-term unfurnished. And with a long-term, you don't normally have an agency fee, which is great. Okay, that's option number 1. So someone from abroad will go ahead, or even the agents can do like a video call with you and look at the apartment.
So that's quite common. So for people who live in abroad and they never see the flat, but then they do a video call and then they can pick an apartment on that basis.
Exactly. So I'll tell you the 3 options and then I'll tell you sort of the complexities of each option and then how you would kind of solve it, right? So first one, finding a long-term, unfurnished or sometimes furnished. The second thing you could do is find a temporary, but temporary short-term 11 months. So up to 11 months. And normally with that, you would have an agency fee, okay? The third option is to get a very short term. So that's a 1 to 3 month accommodation. Why? So that you can come, you find your feet, and then you're able to do the visits whilst you're here. It normally takes 1 month to find and secure an apartment. So a lot of people choose this option. They come for 1 to 3 months, they get an apartment, they're on the ground, and they can go with someone or with the different agents, and they can visit and they can get a feel for the area, okay? These are the main things that we're seeing with clients.
And just about the last one, do people usually go and turn to platform like Airbnb, for example, to find like a 3-month type of apartment rental, or is there any other website that you recommend or ways of identifying those flats?
So great question, right? So for the 3 different options, where do you find them and what's the best way to go? Let's start with the third option, a 1 to 3 month. Airbnb peak time in Spain, which I feel like is kind of always, because we always have tourists coming, is actually quite expensive. She has a budget of 3,000, which is normally, you would be able to get a nice apartment. It could be 1 to 2 bedrooms. If it's furnished, it'll have nice design, good appliances. On Airbnb, a 3K per month apartment might not be a wow apartment.
Okay.
It might be very basic, okay? But we need to keep in mind seasonalities, okay? So if it's peak summer or peak winter, it's going to be different prices. If you book in advance or whether if you're booking last minute, it's different. I would use a platform, for example, if you've got a budget like 3,000, a platform like Home Club, which I use a lot in Barcelona, Madrid. They don't have that agency fee. okay, they bypass it. Their rent will be a little bit more at a premium, but you would have concierge services attached to it. Otherwise, you could look on a platform, depending on different areas in Spain, there are different platforms. For example, in Barcelona, you would have Housing Anywhere, or you would have Idealista, or you would have, for example, Spot a Home. But with Idealista, you're always going to have an agency fee if it's short term. Spot a Home, you're not allowed to visit. Housing Anywhere, also agency fees. So if you're going to do 1 to 3 months, either Airbnb or a platform like Home Club, or you would find smaller little agencies that don't really have an agency fee, but kind of like there's a little service on the side. Agency fee is either 10% of the annual rent plus VAT, 1 month's rent plus VAT, or sometimes they have like another fee, but it's always similar to about 1 month's rent.
So that was the third option. So then you were going to mention for option 1 and 2, the other way of, you know, like places to find a you know, an accommodation.
Super. So, okay, long-term accommodation. If we speak about the main hubs, Barcelona and Madrid, Barcelona, it'll be a 5 to 7 year contract. Madrid, it'll also be a 5 to 7 year contract, but sometimes 1 year renewable. These don't usually have an agency fee.
Yeah.
Why? Because in Spain, they like to be a little bit like pirates with the market.
But it's illegal, isn't it? Like, I thought, like, around putting an agency fee.
So the thing is, online you will read there's a lot of laws in Spain. Yes. But what happens is it's very easy for some agency to add in an extra cost.
Yeah.
For example, in Madrid, what we're seeing for long term is a lot of companies will call it provision of services. So they're going to be charging you a fee for showing you their portfolio of apartments, finding the apartment for you, narrowing down the search. You know, they bypass it. But generally speaking, long term, you don't have an agency fee. Okay. Long term in a place like Barcelona is only about 10 to 15% of the market. It's reduced. In Madrid, there's a lot more. In Barcelona, it's a lot less furnished. So it's going to be unfurnished. And Madrid, you would have more furnished options. In Louisa's case, depending on the breed of the dog, if it's a small, sweet little cute dog, they don't get so nervous. The moment it gets a bit bigger, they get quite nervous. And if Louisa had cats, oh my gosh, it would... Cats.
She doesn't.
Okay. Cats we love cats. We love your cats, but they like to scratch, and owners, I swear, are very, very, very nervous and very protective of their homes. Okay. In Louisa's case, if she's got a dog and she's coming to Spain, she might want to be looking more at an unfurnished because there's more chance of her being accepted. Furnished might say no to a dog. So we need to look into her breed. I hope it's a cute little Yorkie and not like a 10-kilo golden retriever.
That's good for me. Take notes.
So you always have to let the agent know, or who you're working with know, like, what type of dog or cat have you got? Pet. So that's the second one, long-term unfurnished. What happens in that case? For example, Louisa is in the States. Okay. She's going to be arriving into an unfurnished, potentially long-term apartment. So what do you do in that case? You get someone to help you look for the apartment or the agency, sign the contract a week or 2 weeks before, so that at least a few things can be delivered. Or if you're shipping any of your furniture from abroad, there's time for it to arrive, to potentially have a delay, because Spain loves delays when it comes to deliveries. And when you arrive, at least you have the basics. So then we think ahead. Okay, we're going to need a few weeks. Some clients are more flexible. They get the apartment a month before. Okay, so that's an option. And there are people out there that will help.
Okay, that's great. I think that answers a lot.
That answers a lot. And yeah, I mean, some people arrive and they know exactly, I want to be in Barcelona or Madrid or Valencia or Tarragona for the next 3 years. And some clients, which you are seeing, is arriving and thinking, where do I want to go? And do I want to be now tied down to this big project of potentially furnishing and signing, I don't know, a 5-year contract? 2 notes, long-term apartments, normally it's a minimum stay of 1 year. So you're not necessarily committing to something crazy, right?
We're not talking 5 years or something that's, you're not.
Sometimes we would just make sure. Some owners have put a minimum stay of 2 years or 3, just because they're tired of the turnover. Makes sense. So we always check in advance.
Brilliant.
And then for Louisa, the second option, that's the 11 months. This is the most common option, especially in Barcelona now. It's just 11 months is absolutely everywhere. In Madrid too, but 11 months is normally 1 year standard contract. When you come in on an 11 month, you're guaranteed to have an agency fee. But normally an 11 month short term is a furnished apartment. So you know you're coming in, you've got 11 months. Yes, you're paying an agency fee, but everything should be in the apartment and it won't be a hassle.
Mhm.
So in Louisa's case, she's got to ask herself a few questions. How long does she want to be in Barcelona, and is she sure of it? Budget-wise, is she very fixated on bypassing a cost like an agency fee, or is she fine with paying an agency fee? Is she flexible with that? Her dog, what is her dog like? Is it going to be a headache to find an apartment? Does she want to embark on a very fun and exciting project of now finding an apartment to potentially furnish?
Yeah.
Or does she not? So what is she looking for? What's the degree of, I want to come in and I have a budget and I have a time to go and find things and make this my new home? Or I want convenience. I understand that this is going to be a stress for me and my dog. We want to keep it as simple as possible. We want to walk into a home that's ready for us, ready to go, and we can be settled for the next 11 months.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, in the case of Louisa, when I was talking to her, because, you know, she's come to Barcelona a few times, but she's never lived there. So when it comes to, you know, there's a lot of stress that comes to committing to a neighborhood or to committing to a place. So she wants to have the flexibility of saying, okay, maybe I think in the case of what you've said, I think an 11-month contract might work for her because, you know, she can stay, she can kind of, she can be in the place for a substantial amount of time, but not, you know, she's not tied down for like 2 or 3 years. And then it gives her the flexibility of looking for something else. So I think those options are good. And especially for you guys listening to us, I mean, it shows that there's a lot of room anyway when it comes to looking for rent. But in her case, I think the 11-month contract might be the sweet spot.
And I think the general rule of thumb, sometimes I don't play things safe, but when it comes to the visa, for example, Louisa's case, as I mentioned, it's quite dynamic in Spain to find an apartment. It moves pretty fast. So if you can, wait to get the visa in your hand and then book your flights and then book your apartment, because it's not a very empathetic industry where you've booked an apartment and now you want to back out because you don't have the visa. So get the visa in your hand, book the flights, and then we look at apartments.
Amazing.